Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you are, welcome to the Dopamine Slot Machine, the podcast that discusses what you need to know about the video games your children are playing. How are they designed to get your kids hooked? How do they make money from your children? And what can you do to make sure that your child's relationship with video games is a positive one? My name is Andrew. I'm a dad of two and a lifelong gamer. And this is just a bit of a quick impromptu one today, so just me, as I read a really fantastic article titled Nobody Understands Gambling, Especially in Video Games, published yesterday. That's June the 2nd, 2025, if you're not listening to this on the day of recording, by Simone de Rochefort on Polygon.com. I'll link to it in the description. A lot of what I cover is effectively in the article, but also jumping off it as well. So this article describes two games, Balatro, 2024 Surprise Breakout Game of the Year, and Luck Be a Landlord. These are both indie games made by solo developers, real build-it-in-your-garage type developers. They're both massive success stories, really. They don't have microtransactions, they're just one-time purchases. Luck Be a Landlord is, straight up, an artful critique of landlord capitalism, if I were to put a phrase to it. And it's a satire of the exact mechanics it's using, whereas Balatro, it's difficult to describe Balatro. Go play it. It's really good. Maybe watch a video on it if you're not into playing games. But it's a deck-building, poker-like game. It's got a huge amount of strategic and tactical depth. It's won, apparently, every award. To be clear, these games both play off of gambling, but they are not themselves gambling games. Luck Be a Landlord got pulled from app stores globally because its rating, and I quote here, does not take into account references to gambling, including real or simulated gambling. For an indie developer, this is a death sentence. Balatro, meanwhile, just after winning armsful of awards, had its PEGI rating changed from 3+ to 18+. To be clear, these aren't necessarily games I would give my kids, nor do I actually think the games my children would be interested in. But they are not gambling games. No money can change hands in this. Nobody's bank account is going to get cleared out because a parent left a card linked on the device their kid has access to. Something that happens distressingly often. They aren't even designed to be addictive, the same way the endless parade of free, in inverted commas, games you'll find in the app stores are. These are quality games. They might ape the aesthetics of certain casino games as part of their gameplay, but there's no deception behind them. There's no ulterior motives. They are just doing so as part of their gameplay, trying and, in my view, succeeding in aiming to be a good game that's worth paying money for the one time. There's a bit of a history of this as well. So the original Pokemon games pre-2007, so at the very least, Pokemon Red and Blue, Pokemon Gold and Silver, late 90s, early 2000s Pokemon games. I had both of those, loved them. They had an in-game casino called the Game Corner, where you can effectively play a slot machine to win coins to spend on in-game items and Pokemon. You would buy coins with the in-game currency as well. Now, of course, these were just within the game itself, that you couldn't go and buy additional in-game currency with real money. That wasn't a thing. That hadn't been really invented yet. You couldn't end up charging your parents' card off the back of it. These, in Pokemon, these have now been turned into arcade mini-games, as a game is not allowed to include anything which encourages, promotes, or teaches gambling unless it has an 18+ rating. And yeah, I get that. In hindsight, it is kind of weird for a game that, I think I was 5 when I got Pokemon Red on my Game Boy Color for Christmas, maybe even 4, I'm not sure. Kind of strange to expose them to that. I didn't really take to it at that age because I didn't have the patience, didn't really understand it. And I don't necessarily disagree with requiring games that encourage, promote, or teach gambling to have an 18+ rating. That said, I don't think Luck Be a Landlord and Balatro fit under that definition. as mentioned, they like Balatro in particular. It is perhaps inspired by poker, and obviously managing risk, reward, and trust is certainly part of it, but it is not all of it. What I don't get is, in what world are games with loot boxes not covered by this? So Peggy, the same regulator that gave Balatro its 18 plus rating, gives Roblox a parental guidance rating. So as long as the parents are aware, then it's suitable for everybody, apparently. No idea how they came to that conclusion. They give Fortnite a 12 because of the violent content, saying nothing about the literal gambling that users are constantly being funneled towards, and says that FIFA is suitable for all ages. Again, not including the gambling that's built in as a core part of the game. These games all have real gambling that the player is directed towards, and they're given age ratings that do not account for that. I'm not even talking about the thousands of games on app stores that are listed as free, but they're also trying to do the exact same thing. Just these big games, right? The sort of things that you'd think that a regulator would at least have the resources to go have a look at. I mean, if they're going after breakout indie hits like Balatro, why can't they look at Roblox properly? It only takes 20 minutes of playing some Roblox games to see just how embedded into the core gameplay of so many experiences on Roblox gambling is. Millions of children in this country are being regularly exposed to real gambling on devices their parents have given them in games that their parents assume are safe. A huge number of those children are actively engaging in gambling using money that their parents are giving them. I'm not even talking about the issues with addictive design, the sort of dopamine slot machine, to name the phenomenon after which we're named, that we talk about, but literal gambling with real money. There's a game called Counter-Strike, and I'm specifically talking about the iteration of it called Counter-Strike Global Offensive, or otherwise known as Counter-Strike Go. Counter-Strike itself has been around in some form or another for decades. It was kind of an old series when I first became aware of it as a kid, but it was also one of the first games to introduce skins, cosmetics. In it, you can earn, buy, and sell weapon skins. Alongside this, a shadow market of skin gambling sites, often promoted by YouTubers with huge audiences of children, has emerged. One of those YouTubers, whose name is very difficult for me to pronounce, but I will include a link to his channel in the description, actually conducted an investigation into Counter-Strike Go after basically saying that he was going to take sponsorship from them and using that insight, sponsorship not from Counter-Strike Go, but the third-party shadow market of skin gambling sites, and use the insight he got from that to basically produce his own study on it. He found that 70% of people who have at some point gambled with Counter-Strike Global Offensive skins started when they were children, so under 18. Now, Counter-Strike Global Offensive has been rated between a mature game or 12 plus, depending on which body is doing the ratings. But that's been entirely based off of the violent content, the shooting, the you are either saving hostages or fighting off counter-terrorist units, and completely ignoring the multi-billion, and to be clear, it is a multi-billion dollar industry that's built up around skin gambling. It's a way for children to access unregulated gambling sites without it being gambling, as far as the regulator's concerned. And as I said, none of this is touching on the way games are rewiring children's brains to be wired towards risk and uncertainty, even without money changing hands, the addictive design. My worry, which is why we started this podcast, is very few parents, and certainly basically no regulators or politicians, have the gaming knowledge and experience to truly break down the mechanics that are being used on children. It is easy to look at Balatro and say, that looks like poker, we can't be having that, whilst ignoring Roblox because it looks like a kid's game. those of you who joined my webinar last week on Roblox, and I do apologize, I have yet at time of recording to edit that down into something that we can put online. I've had a lot of requests to do just that. Those of you who came to that webinar will have seen us covering particularly Rivals, which is a super popular Roblox game, and just the amount of addictive design and gambling that is just straight up promoted to the player as soon as you log in. Yet Roblox, as far as Peggy is concerned, is fine as long as the parents are away. It's got parental guidance. We've seen a massive rise in gambling over the last few years, particularly as it pertains to sports betting. I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert on this phenomenon. I don't watch any sports. I actually only went to my first football game a couple of weeks ago, the Women's FA final with my daughter. We had a fantastic time. But even I can see that it's pretty intense, the level of sponsorship, the level of promotion, sports betting in football, and presumably other sports as well, right? Probably the same in the Super Bowl over in the US, basketball. We watch the Six Nations sometimes. I haven't seen anything around that. Don't know if that's a decision made by the sporting bodies involved or it's just culturally not as big a thing. There's going to be many reasons driving this, but I wouldn't be surprised if the normalization of gambling in video games, both the literal loot box type gambling and the more subtle addictive design, where you're gambling in terms of non-financial rewards, I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of those things that's feeding into them. And it is very clear from the way our regulators behave and the way these, and actually also to be clear, Peggy is an industry body. It's not a state-run regulator. It is something that the industry has come up with itself, effectively to try and avoid governments being the one to crack down it. So to keep that regulation within their control, governments do sign up with it. So it's not purely just an industry play. It's more complicated than I can get into at the end of a one-man episode. The regulators aren't equipped to handle this. Either they are being willfully ignorant, or they don't understand the industry that they're trying to regulate. Honestly, probably both. So that leaves it to us parents to make sure that we are making informed choices about the games our children play. And again, I am quite gaming positive. I think that gaming, in the same way films, books, it can be an art form, and it can be certainly a positive thing in your child's life. But we got to make more informed choices on this. Roblox and Fortnite are probably the two most popular games for kids, with Minecraft being third. Maybe the exact positioning of those three is up for debate, but the fact that those are the three most popular games amongst children, frankly, isn't up for debate. And 2 out of the 3 of them have gambling embedded from top to bottom. As parents, we need to make better choices here. We can't be relying on our politicians who don't want to know, and regulators who also don't seem to be able to figure this out themselves, to make these things safe for our children to use. It's not going to happen. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Next week, we are still going to be covering Snapchat. I'm looking forward to that. It should be quite a long episode as well. It's combining the gamification of social media with, frankly, just some of the horror stories you hear about Snapchat. It's being quite heavy to research, but I'm looking forward to going live with that. This has been the Dopamine Slot Machine. Thank you, and see you soon.